The August heat clings to the suburban sprawl of Maplewood, a quiet pocket of brick homes and manicured lawns just beyond the city's restless hum. Inside a two-story house on Elm Drive, the air carries the faint tang of sautéed garlic drifting from the kitchen, where Sarah, a wiry woman with laugh lines etched into her sun-kissed skin, stirs a pot of marinara. Her dark hair is swept into a loose bun, strands escaping as she hums a tune from her college days, oblivious to the undercurrent brewing in the next room. The living room glows with the amber flicker of a table lamp, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. Mark slumps into the recliner, his broad frame sinking into the worn leather, a dull ache radiating from his lower back after a day spent hunched over blueprints at the construction firm. At 45, his quiet strength is softened by fatigue, his salt and pepper stubble catching the light as he rubs a hand across his jaw. Lily enters from the hallway, her bare feet silent against the floorboards, a cascade of auburn hair spilling over one shoulder. At 22, she carries the restless energy of youth tempered by a sharp, knowing gaze. She's home from college for the summer, her presence a jolt of life in the house's steady rhythm. "Rough day?" she asks, her voice light but threaded with a teasing edge as she perches on the armrest beside him. Mark grunts in response, a half-smile tugging at his lips, but his eyes linger on her, a beat too long, before he shifts his focus to the muted TV flickering with a baseball game. "Let me help," she offers, sliding behind him before he can protest. Her hands find his shoulders, firm yet tentative, kneading into the knots beneath his faded flannel shirt. The scent of her citrus lotion mingles with the room's stale warmth, and Mark stiffens, not from discomfort, but from the unexpected press of her fingers slipping just beneath his collar, brushing bare skin. A jolt courses through him, sharp and unbidden, stirring a heat he quickly buries beneath a cough. "You're good at this," he manages, his voice rougher than intended, and Lily's laugh, low, almost conspiratorial, sends a ripple through the air. "I've had practice," she says, her breath grazing his neck as she leans closer, her touch deepening along the curve of his spine. In the kitchen, Sarah calls out, "Dinner's almost ready. Everything okay in there?" Her tone is casual, a tether to the ordinary, but it lands like a stone in the charged silence. Mark's pulse quickens, his body attuned to Lily's proximity, her fingers tracing patterns that feel less like relief and more like a question. She doesn't pull back. Instead, her lips hover near his ear, her voice dropping to a whisper. She doesn't have to know how good this feels. The words hang between them, daring and heavy, and Mark's breath catches, his hands tightening on the armrests as guilt clashes with a rising ache he can't name. Lily's smirk, glimpsed in the corner of his vision, tells him she senses it too, a pull neither can ignore, tugging them towards something shadowed and undefined. The moment stretches, taut and electric, until Lily's hands slide lower, bolder now, slipping beneath his shirt to graze his chest. Her touch is deliberate, a quiet challenge, and Mark's restraint frays. He shifts, letting her tug the fabric up, exposing the taut lines of his torso to the cool air and her exploring fingers. "You like this, don't you?" she teases, her voice a soft taunt, and the thrill of her audacity, mere steps from Sarah's steady clatter of dishes, ignites a flush across his skin. The boundary between stepfather and stepdaughter blurs, their dynamic tilting into uncharted waters, and the distant hum of the city beyond the windows feels like a witness to their unraveling. Sarah's footsteps approach, the faint creak of the floor snapping the tension like a wire. Lily freezes, her hands still beneath Mark's shirt, her eyes darting to his with a mix of defiance and alarm. Mark's chest tightens, the weight of discovery looming, but the sound recedes. Sarah turning back to the stove perhaps, or reaching for a spice. The nearness of exposure only sharpens the edge, and when Lily's gaze locks with his again, there's no retreat in it. Only a promise, unspoken yet visceral, that this is just the beginning. The living room hums with a stillness that feels alive, the distant clink of Sarah's spoon against the pot, a faint pulse beneath the weight of Mark and Lily's shared silence. The lamp's glow washes over them, casting Lily's shadow across the wall as she straddles the armrest, her knees brushing Mark's thighs. Her hands linger beneath his shirt, fingertips tracing the ridges of his ribs, and the heat of her touch seeps into him, unraveling the threads of his resolve. Outside, the suburban night presses against the windows, crickets chirping in the yard, a car engine rumbling down Elm Drive, its normalcy a stark contrast to the storm brewing within these walls. Mark's jaw tightens, his mind a battlefield of duty and desire, but his body betrays him, leaning into her touch as if drawn by some primal current. Lily senses the shift, her lips curving into a half-smile that's equal parts daring and knowing. She slides fully onto his lap, her weight settling against him, her thin tank top clinging to her frame as her chest brushes his. "Relax," she breathes, her voice a soft command, and before he can muster a protest, her lips crash against his. The kiss is fierce, urgent, a collision of pent-up tension that drowns out the world. Mark's hands find her hips, gripping her through the denim of her shorts, pulling her closer as their tongues meet in a tangle of heat and need. Her nails rake lightly across his shoulders, leaving faint trails on his skin, and the scent of her citrus lotion mixes with the salt of his sweat, filling the air with their reckless abandon. Each sound, her quickened breaths, the rustle of fabric as his shirt hits the floor, carries a raw edge, amplified by the nearness of Sarah's movements in the kitchen. The risk fuels them, sharpening every sensation, the press of Lily's thighs around him, the damp warmth of her mouth, the thud of his own pulse in his ears. He slides a hand beneath her waistband, fingers brushing the soft skin of her lower back, and she arches into him, a quiet gasp escaping her lips. The couch creaks beneath their shifting weight, a faint protest against their urgency, and Mark's mind flickers to Sarah, just beyond the doorway, stirring sauce, humming. Yet the thought only tightens his grip, urging him deeper into this forbidden rush. Lily pulls back, her eyes glinting in the dim light, pupils wide with a hunger that mirrors his own. She slides to her knees between his legs, hands tugging at his jeans with a fleeting hesitation that dissolves into resolve. Mark's breath hitches as her fingers cool against his heated skin, and when her mouth closes, slow and deliberate, a groan escapes before he can stifle. His hands thread through her auburn hair, guiding her rhythm as sweat beads on his brow, the sight of her flushed cheeks and parted lips pushing him toward a precipice. "Shh," she whispers against him, her voice a plea laced with thrill. "She'll hear." The warning hangs heavy, a thread of sanity in their spiral, but it only drives her faster, testing his limits as the air grows thick with their shared defiance. Beyond the living room, the kitchen light spills into the hall, a golden sliver that dances with Sarah's shadow as she moves, closer now, then retreating. Mark's chest tightens, every nerve attuned to the dual pull of Lily's touch and the looming threat of discovery. The city's distant hum seeps through the walls, traffic on the highway, a dog barking 2 streets over, a reminder of the life they're risking. Lily's hands grip his thighs, her pace unrelenting, and the tension coils tighter, a wire stretched to breaking. He's on the edge, teetering between surrender and restraint, when the floorboards creak again, sharper this time, closer. Lily freezes, her lips still against him, her gaze darting upward. Mark's heart slams against his ribs, the sound of Sarah's footsteps, a blade poised above their tangled tableau. The moment holds, suspended and electric, as the kitchen falls silent. No clatter, no humming, just the faint sizzle of the stove. Lily's breath fans across his skin, her eyes locked on his. Mark's fingers tighten in her hair, his body screaming for release, but the weight of that creak anchors him, a tether to the reality they've shredded. The air pulses with their indecision, the suburban night outside oblivious to the fault line cracking through this house on Elm Drive. The living room teeters on a razor's edge, the air dense with the heat of Mark and Lily's entanglement. Lily kneels between his legs, her hands braced on his thighs, her lips hovering as the echo of that sharp creak lingers. Mark's chest heaves, his fingers still tangled in her auburn strands, every muscle coiled as the silence from the kitchen stretches, a void where Sarah's presence once hummed. The lamp's amber glow bathes them in a soft haze, the baseball game on the TV flickering mutely, its crowd a distant roar swallowed by the suburban night. Outside, a breeze rustles the oaks lining Elm Drive, carrying the faint tang of exhaust from the highway threading through Maplewood's fringes. Mark's gaze darts to the doorway, the golden spill of kitchen light now steady, unbroken by movement. Lily shifts, her breath warm against him, her eyes searching his with a flicker of uncertainty that belies her earlier boldness. He opens his mouth, to whisper, to stop her, but the words die as the floor creaks again, deliberate and close. The door swings open, a slow arc that peels back the shadows, and Sarah stands framed in the threshold, her silhouette rigid against the backlight. A gasp slices through the stillness, sharp and raw, and Mark's stomach lurches, his hands falling from Lily's hair as if burned. Lily scrambles back, her tank top askew, her face flushed with a mix of defiance and shock. Sarah's eyes, wide, dark pools reflecting the lamp's glow, dart between them, taking in Mark's unbuttoned jeans, Lily's disheveled state, the shirt crumpled on the floor. The wooden spoon in her hand trembles, sauce dripping onto the hardwood in slow, crimson dots. Time stalls, the room a tableau of shattered norms, and Mark braces for the storm, accusations, tears, the unraveling of their life on Elm Drive. But Sarah doesn't scream. Her lips part, her breath uneven, and a flush creeps up her neck, staining her cheeks. Her gaze lingers on Lily, then Mark, and something shifts, shock melting into a shadowed curiosity that catches them both off guard. "Don't stop," she whispers, her voice trembling yet firm, a thread of steel beneath the quake. The spoon clatters to the floor, and she steps forward, shedding her robe with a fluid motion that pools the fabric at her feet. Mark's mind reels, the air thickening as Sarah closes the distance, her bare shoulders catching the light, her body lean and familiar, yet newly electric in this fractured moment. Lily's breath hitches, her eyes darting to Mark, then back to her mother, a question unspoken. Sarah kneels beside her, tentative, her hand brushing Lily's arm, a touch that escalates into a pull, drawing her closer. Their lips meet, soft at first, then hungry, and the sound, a quiet, desperate inhale, ignites the room. Mark watches, rooted to the recliner, his pulse a wild drumbeat as Sarah's fingers slide into Lily's hair, mirroring his own grip moments ago. The kiss deepens, a tangle of need and discovery, and when Sarah's eyes flick to him, there's no retreat, only an invitation. She reaches for him, her hand grazing his chest, pulling him into the orbit of their embrace. His lips find hers, familiar yet charged with a new edge, then shift to Lily's, the taste of them blending in a chaotic rush. Hands roam, Sarah's on Lily's waist, Lily's on Mark's shoulders, his own tracing the curve of Sarah's back. Their union a spiral of sweat and gasps, boundaries dissolving in the dim light. The couch becomes their anchor, fabric groaning as they collapse into it, a tangle of limbs and quickened breaths. Sarah's nails scrape lightly across Mark's chest. Lily's legs twine with hers, and the air grows heavy with the musk of their shared surrender. The city beyond the windows fades, traffic a dull hum, streetlights a faint gleam, leaving only the rhythm of their movements, urgent and unscripted. Each touch carries a weight, a release of years unspoken. And as they peak together, a breathless, shuddering collision, the room feels remade. They slump, sated yet fragile, the lamp casting long shadows over their sprawled forms. A family reshaped not by fracture, but by this raw, unexpected fusion. Morning looms on the horizon, the first gray light seeping through the blinds, and with it, the promise of a reckoning. awkward, tender, or both. The first threads of dawn creep through the blinds, painting the living room in muted grays and silvers, a stark shift from the amber haze of the night before. Mark, Lily, and Sarah lie sprawled across the couch, a tangle of limbs and rumpled fabric, their breaths slow and uneven in the aftermath. The air carries the faint musk of sweat and citrus, mingling with the lingering scent of marinara cooled on the stove. Outside, Maplewood stirs. Garbage trucks rumble down Elm Drive. A jogger's footsteps thud faintly on the sidewalk. But within these walls, time feels suspended, the weight of their union settling like dust after a storm. Mark's arm rests heavy across Sarah's waist, her head tucked against his chest, while Lily curls against her mother's side, auburn hair fanned across the cushion. Sarah stirs first, her eyes fluttering open to the dim light, and a quiet inhale marks her return to awareness. She shifts, her bare skin brushing Mark's, and the contact jolts him awake. His gaze meets hers, shadowed with fatigue and something unspoken. Relief, perhaps, or trepidation. Lily blinks next, stretching with a soft groan, her tank top twisted around her torso, and the trio untangles slowly, each movement laced with a tender awkwardness. The couch creaks as they sit up, the silence thick but not hostile, a canvas for whatever comes next. Sarah reaches for her robe, discarded by the doorway, and wraps it around herself, her fingers lingering on the tie, as if anchoring herself to the familiar. "Coffee?" she asks, her voice hoarse but steady, breaking the stillness. Mark nods, rubbing a hand across his stubble, while Lily murmurs assent, pulling her knees to her chest. The ordinariness of the question feels surreal against the memory of their tangled bodies, but it's a lifeline, a thread back to routine. Sarah pads to the kitchen, the floor cool beneath her feet, and the clatter of mugs soon fills the space, porcelain on countertop, water hissing through the machine. Mark and Lily exchange a glance, brief but loaded, her lips twitching into a half-smile that he mirrors despite the knot in his chest. The night's fervor lingers in their muscles, their skin, a secret etched into every touch they'd shared. They gather at the kitchen table, the room bathed in the soft glow of morning filtering through sheer curtains. The city's pulse seeps in, distant horns, a neighbor's lawnmower buzzing to life, grounding them in the sprawl of Maplewood. Sarah sets the mugs down, steam curling upward, and slides into a chair beside Mark, her knee brushing his beneath the table. Lily sips her coffee, her gaze flickering between them, and the quiet holds a new intimacy, fragile yet undeniable. "We're okay, right?" Tips as the fabric she ventures, her tone light but seeking, and Sarah's hand finds hers across the table, squeezing gently. "We're something," Sarah replies, a faint laugh escaping her, and Mark's tension eases, his fingers grazing her wrist in silent agreement. The hours unfold with a tentative rhythm, breakfast shared over scattered conversation, the clink of forks against plates, a counterpoint to the weight of their glances. They don't dissect the night, not yet. Instead, they lean into the altered current between them, testing its shape. Lily brushes past Mark to refill her mug, her hip grazing his, and Sarah's eyes follow the motion, a flush dusting her cheeks. Not jealousy, but recognition. Later, they sprawl on the couch again, the TV humming with a morning talk show, and Sarah's hand rests on Mark's thigh while Lily's head tips onto her shoulder. The contact is casual, yet deliberate, a bridge between what was and what might be. By afternoon, the house settles into a quiet hum, the suburban day unfolding beyond the windows, kids on bikes, a delivery truck idling at the curb. Inside, the trio navigates their new terrain, each interaction layered with echoes of the night. A shared laugh over a spilled mug, a lingering touch as they clear the table. The dynamic has shifted, not broken, but remade, a tapestry of trust and desire woven through their bonds. As evening nears, Sarah glances at them both, her voice soft but certain. "This stays here, with us." Mark nods, Lily echoes it, and the pact seals their secret, a fragile harmony born from surrender. The sun dips below the rooftops, casting long shadows across Elm Drive, and the house on the edge of the city holds its breath, a sanctuary for a family redefined, not by betrayal, but by an unexpected, transformative embrace.